You know how Fox has a weird way of counting Simpsons episodes? They refuse to count a couple of them, making the amount of episodes inconsistent. The reason for this is a lost episode from season 1. Finding details about this missing episode is difficult. No one who was working on the show at the time likes to talk about it. From what has been pieced together, the lost episode was written entirely by Matt Groening. During production of the first season, Matt started to act strangely. He was very quiet, seemed nervous and morbid. Mentioning this to anyone who was present results in them getting very angry and forbidding you to ever mention it to Matt. I first heard of it at an event where David Silverman was speaking. Someone in the crowd asked about the episode and Silverman simply left the stage, ending the presentation hours early. The episode's production number was 7G06 and the title was Dead Bart. The episode labeled 7G06, Moaning Lisa, was made later and given Dead Bart's production code to hide the latter's existence. In addition to getting angry, asking anyone who was on the show about this will cause them to do everything they can to stop you from directly communicating with Matt Groening. At a fan event, I managed to follow him after he spoke to the crowd, and eventually had a chance to talk to him alone as he was leaving the building. He didn't seem upset that I had followed him, probably expected a typical encounter with an obsessive fan. When I mentioned the lost episode though, all color drained from his face and he started trembling. When I asked him if he could tell me any details, he sounded like he was on the verge of tears. He grabbed a piece of paper, wrote something on it, and handed it to me. He begged me never to mention the episode again. The piece of paper had a website address on it. I would rather not say what it was for reasons you'll see in a second. I entered the address into my browser, and I came to a site that was completely black, except for a line of yellow text, a download link. I clicked on it and a file started downloading. Once the file was downloaded, my computer went crazy. It was the worst virus I had ever seen. System restore didn't work. The entire computer had to be rebooted. Before doing this though, I copied the file onto a CD. I tried to open it on my now empty computer, and as I suspected, there was an episode of The Simpsons on it. The episode started off like any other episode, but had very poor quality animation. If you've seen the original animation for Some Enchanted Evening, it was similar but less stable. The first act was fairly normal, but the way the characters acted was a little off. Homer seemed angrier, Marge seemed depressed, Lisa seemed anxious, Bart seemed to have genuine anger and hatred for his parents. The episode was about the Simpsons going on a plane trip. Near the end of the first act, the plane was taking off. Bart was fooling around, as you'd expect. However, as the plane was about 50 feet off the ground, Bart broke a window on the plane and was sucked out. At the beginning of the series, Matt had an idea that the animated style of The Simpsons world represented life, and that death turned things more realistic. This was used in this episode. The picture of Bart's corpse was barely recognizable. They took full advantage of it not having to move, and made an almost photorealistic drawing of his dead body. Act 1 ended with a shot of Bart's corpse. When Act 2 started, Homer, Marge, and Lisa were sitting at their table crying. The crying went on and on and on. It got more pained and sounded more realistic, better acting than you would think possible. The animation started to decay even more as they cried, and you could hear murmuring in the background. The characters could barely be made out. They were stretching and blurring. They looked like deformed shadows with random bright colors thrown on them. There were faces looking in the window, flashing in and out so you were never sure what they looked like. This crying went on for all of Act 2. Act 3 opened with a title card saying 1 year had passed. Homer, Marge, and Lisa were skeletally thin, and they were still sitting at the table. There was no sign of Maggie or the pets. They decided to visit Bart's grave. Springfield was completely deserted, and as they walked to the cemetery, the houses became more and more decrepit. They all looked abandoned. When they got to the grave, Bart's body was just lying in front of his tombstone, looking just like it did at the end of Act 1. The family started crying again. Eventually, they stopped and just stared at Bart's body. The camera zoomed in on Homer's face. According to summaries, Homer tells a joke at this part, but it isn't audible in the version I saw. You can't tell what Homer is saying. The view zoomed out as the episode came to a close. The tombstones in the background had the names of every Simpsons guest star on them, some that no one had heard of in 1989, some that haven't been on the show yet. all of them had death dates on them. For Guess Who Died Twice, like Michael Jackson and George Harrison, the dates were when they would die. The credits were completely silent and seemed handwritten. The final image was the Simpson family on their couch like in the intros, but all drawn in hyper-realistic, lifeless style of Bart's corpse. A thought occurred to me after seeing the episode for the first time. You could try to use the tombstones to predict the death of living Simpsons guest stars, but there's something odd about most of the ones that haven't died yet. All of their deaths are listed as the same date. Alright, it's that time where I provide a bit of a review and analysis, and I'm gonna say that there are just some things that make this story not so good. The ending was pretty good, but I'm gonna say this right now. There are so many unnecessary cliches. I mean, I'll give the story a benefit of doubt. It's an old story, but still, way too many unnecessary cliches. All I'm seeing here is that, like, there's a lot of awful writing and rushed storytelling, and this shit hardly makes any sense. I wouldn't say it's the worst creepypasta, but it's just not good. Like, the only positive impact the story has is the ending. And what I mean by the ending is when it says, oh, their deaths are listed on the exact same date, and that's what makes a great creepypasta. That's actually what makes a great horror story. When you end a story like that, that's what makes it actually sound good. So yeah, like, reading this story, all I can take away from this is that it's basically it's your typical Lost episode. The Simpsons are basically going on a trip, and then Bart's just being his usual rambunctious self, and then he does something really stupid that gets him killed. Dude breaks a window on the plane, gets sucked out, and then fucking dies. The end. Bro, this is way too fucking simple. Also, not to mention, the part where I read system restore didn't work, the entire computer had to be rebooted, kind of made my brain shut off, because like this makes me feel like this was a creepypasta meant for people with single digit IQ, because I'm pretty sure that the person who wrote this doesn't have the slightest inkling of how computers work in the slightest. So yeah, this is just like, I don't fucking know. It's just not that good. I'm pretty sure this wouldn't even count as a Treehouse of Horror special, because if it were to be a Treehouse of Horror special, I would have seen something more graphic. You know, that's what I would actually enjoy seeing. I should also mention that I've been going through the Creepypasta Wiki's comments section for the wiki entry for this story, and I actually did find out from someone that David Silverman himself actually did comment about this pasta, and he posted about it on Twitter, and he said that this story is, and I quote, "That's the dumbest rumor I've ever heard. This page," and he's talking about the Dead Bart Creepypasta Wiki page. "This story is complete horseshit. Not one thing is true." So yeah, David Silverman himself confirms that all of these things are a hoax. But yeah, I digress. Either way, this story is just like kind of a mess. I would pretty much. So yeah, we have a basic ass story that serves to make little to no impact. We basically have these unnecessary cliches and the unnecessary use of the word hyper realistic. Like, at this point, it's a rule of thumb. Anytime a creepypasta has the words hyper realistic in it, it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck hard. So yeah, we have that issue there too. And we have this person not understanding how computers work in the slightest. This story is kind of all over the place, so I don't even know what to say. I'm giving this story a 4.5 out of 10. I wouldn't really say it's that good. Hey, at least he didn't try to include dead children like 2 other stories I read in this series. But yeah, you tried, but it really didn't fucking work out. But yeah, that was the 4th episode of Diamond Reads Reloaded, and I hope you guys enjoyed this story, because I for one was not really a fan of it. Either way, I'm so glad I finally got back into the swing of things regarding my creepypasta readings, and I will definitely make more. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this episode, feel free to leave a like and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a beat, because I post new content almost every single day. Join me in episode 5 when I review The Friendship Test, which is a creepypasta that I have never heard of before, but I think it's worth a try. Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other and stay blessed. And until we meet again, I'm Rebel Shadow, and I'm out.